Hi, I'm Stuart. I'm here to talk to you about my experiences of being an adopted parent. I've got a couple of questions here from you guys, and I'm sure Richard's spoken enough to you over the last few days so you can get a good flavour of what our family's like. The first question I've got here from Carla. How did you feel when Richard has a different approach to you, and how do you compromise? We talk a lot about how we were going to raise Dean initially. So before he even come along, we've made certain decisions about what sort of strategies we'd adopt. And generally speaking, we just have really open, honest communication with each other. And if we're not happy with something, then you wait for the appropriate time and then talk to each other about it and come to a compromise. I suppose it's just being honest, being open, and knowing that not all the time you're able to kind of have things the way that you want it. Working as a family, it takes quite a lot to kind of pull everyone's different needs together to get a solution. Okay, next question. How did you find going from 2 adults in your home to having a family of 3? Oh, wow, that's a harsh one. I really struggled to come to terms with adopting Dean and the changes that entailed, and it probably took me 6 months to a year to really grasp how things had changed, and that actually we weren't as free and we couldn't go on holiday a couple of times a year like we used to. But you get used to it really quickly, and now I couldn't ever imagine not having Dean in our life. And I think it's, you just naturally adapt because you have a young person here that needs your care and attention, and your priorities have just changed naturally. So I think you just evolve as you need to, really. How did you feel about contact, and has it changed over the years? First of all, contact seemed really scary, the concept of it, but actually when you start doing it, it's really controlled. The letterbox contacts that we've got in place is really well managed and controlled by Essex, so it doesn't really affect sort of our life negatively in any way. In actual fact, over the last few years, it's become really positive for Dean because he's been able to ask certain questions and get answers back to things. So recently we got a load of photos from Dean's birth mum and people, like the photos of her family members, and she had written loads of notes on the back. So it gave Dean a bit more context and background to kind of, his birth family, which is really good for him. And it's changed and it's developed and evolved, and we've taken quite a lead on that. So we've done things like asking particular questions, said like, Dean would like to find out more about this, about that, even if he hasn't, but it allows Dean's birth mum to actually come up with some answers and actually put a much more valid response back to us, because we found initially the letters were really basic and just didn't really have a lot of substance or context. So we found it much easier to actually start asking some questions, and that made it really easy for her to then respond to those and then expand as well. So for us it works really well. Dean's getting more engaged with it over the years. Initially he didn't want to have anything to do with them. Now it's a little bit more kind of valuable, useful kind of thing. So that's the end of the questions that I've got there. I'm sure Rich will be able to answer anything else. The only other thing that I'll say is like Rich and I initially went into the adoption process looking for maybe like a 3-4-year-old, and we ended up walking away with Dean, who was turning 7 the week before we got him, or the week after. Sorry, the week after we got him. So things changed quite considerably, but I actually feel really privileged to have adopted an older child, because you don't realise just how much of an impact you can have. I was worried initially that, oh, you know, maybe a child that's older, they'd have their own personality, I wouldn't be able to have much influence on that. I believe that kids and all people are naturally born with a type of personality, and there can be slight tweaking and things around it, but I think ultimately you're not going to change a person, like their outset, the way that they view things, massively. But one of the really big positive things that I took away from adopting an older child was actually you can have a conversation with them, and if they're pissed off, they can talk to you about that, as opposed to younger children where they struggle to understand what emotions they're going through and to be able to control those and kind of share with you. So just keep an open mind, don't rule out children that are older or from sibling groups or harder to place for whatever reason. Just keep a really open mind about how your family could actually form together in the end. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and if you've got any other questions, I'm sure Rich will do a fantastic job in answering them. Thanks.